Welcome back into the Batify podcast. This is Travis Creasy, along with my partner in crime, Ben Hayes.
What's happening?
And we are very excited today to have a guest that we've been looking forward to talking to, Nathan Pirtle. How you doing, man?
I'm here. I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
That's awesome. Well, like I said, we're excited to have you, and we've got a few questions for you, and obviously we'll just go ahead and get started. And what we like to do with, and what I love about this podcast is it kind of forces me to deal with things and wrestle with things and grow in my faith through our interviews with people of things that they're having to deal with and struggle through and wrestle with. And Ben, you mentioned Hebrews, and that's what I've been studying with some of my Bible classes here. And the word in Hebrews is better.
Mm-hmm.
He's got
that's
better
right
for you, even if things don't turn out the way you'd like them to in this life. What's coming is better, and I think that's a lot of the words that you've used. If I can take and put them into one word, better. The better opportunity. And as we talk about that, if somebody, Nathan, if you knew somebody who was getting this news today, what would you want to tell them?
Man, I especially I guess I'm talking more to somebody who is not, I guess, faithful in their walk with the Lord, and maybe doesn't have a church home or family. But if you are in that situation and you do hear this podcast, the thing that I want to tell the listener that is away from the Lord right now, the thing that I want them to know is, I can't imagine going through this and not having God on my side. And I can't imagine going through this and not having His family to lift me up and support me through this.
Yes, sir.
And Travis, how much, the church family and Ben, you do too, through your different things that you face. But man, once you realize how the church loves each other in these trials, in these struggles in life, you realize, hey, there's no other group of people that I would ever want, to have behind me, supporting me and loving me.
Absolutely.
Through something like this, because there's not another group of people on this planet who will love and go above and beyond like the family of God.
That's exactly right.
And so, if there's anyone who's listening and you're going through that maybe that initial diagnosis, or you're fighting this, here's the thing: if you're going to go through this suffering, you might as well go through this suffering with God on your side. I mean, there's just, in my mind, there's no better thing that you could do. I mean, it is that big of a blessing.
I can't give you a strong enough amen on that, man.
Well, I mean, that was something that came up at
not
Huntsville, Travis, with you, was even, that the nurses, and you can tell that story better than I can, just about how I was telling somebody about what they were saying about your room, when you were in Huntsville Hospital. They just said, it was a different, I guess, feeling in Travis's room than anywhere else up there, because there was cards everywhere, and there was,
the positive messages and, things that I posted, and the mail lady's bringing me more mail than anybody had ever gotten at Huntsville Hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that kind of leads us to another question. Nathan, where have you seen, is there specific, I know if you're like me, it's a flood of things, but is there anything specifically you've seen from the church that really, specifically an item they may have gotten you, or something, whatever it may be, what's something that's kind of stood out to you and maybe been a sense of, of encouragement?
I made a move in the middle of my treatment. I mean, and that's another way God basically, I started, I found out I could get treated at home, in my hometown. And there were a lot of different hurdles that we had to overcome in order to make that happen. But I prayed about it, and I said, God, if this is meant to be, if you want me to go back home for this time being, and I had to think about offering up, my dream job at Benton. I mean, I love the ministry that I had at Benton. I loved my kids. We went through a school shooting together, and we got really close, and basically we were seeing the fruits, of handling that in the way that and keep staying close to God during that trial, and I was in the middle of dreams. I had elders, I've had elders who basically said, "Hey, you tell us what you need, and we're gonna make it happen." I had parents who were like, "Listen, let us know anything you need us to do." I had young people. I mean, they were on fire, and so there was this decision of, okay, God, I can get treatment that would help my family right now, that would help me. I could get closer to home, get around my parents, get around my wife's family. And, I prayed about it, and no joke, in 2 days, the Lord worked every single one of those hurdles out. And then when it came time to move, the members at Benton loaded my trailer. I mean, I had just got done with the treatment. So, and of course I couldn't bear weight on my right leg. And then once I got to Savannah, you know who unloaded me and
Church in
organized the
Savannah.
house? The church
Yeah,
did.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't have to do a thing. And it was like, and then, the church at Benton, several members from there, they stayed here in Savannah and helped organize our house here.
Wow.
And I mean, like, from the financial support to the cards of encouragement, the prayers. I mean, it's just overwhelming. It's humbling to think about. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's my whole message right now. If you don't have a church family right now, that's my biggest encouragement to you. Is I don't understand why anybody would want to go through anything in this life and not have their church family to support them and love them through it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just one instance, but yeah.
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, if you're listening to this and you don't believe, you may be, a person that has no belief. You may have some doubts. And I want to encourage you to find a church family, find that community and work through that.
Mm-hmm.
But also understand that there are churches out there who are looking to help you. And hopefully you don't necessarily have to reach out to them, but if you don't have one, reach out to them. And I'm sure, I encourage you that they would be more than happy to help you in any way possible that they can. And just to kind of flip that, is there anything, maybe not the church itself, but people or things that have discouraged you that maybe people have said or done, or do you have any advice for people? I know it's a struggle to talk to people who are going through issues. I mentioned that earlier. This podcast is kind of helping me learn how to address situations that are not fun, per se, or difficult. Is there any advice that you'd give there?
Well, it's not necessarily a discouragement. It's just one of the things that my eyes were open to is how much people, and I'm talking to myself just as much as I am anybody else, but how much I let maybe the fear of being awkward or weird, or the fear of showing up at the wrong time, or texting or calling at the wrong time. I realized, I mean, I was 31 when I was diagnosed, and energetic and athlete, I'm active, just constantly going and constantly doing stuff, always outdoors, always doing whatever. And then all of a sudden I lose 25 pounds. I lose my hair. I get dark circles under my eyes. My skin gets pale. And I realized that scared a lot of people, and it actually, I think, may have kept people away from me because they're looking at the reality of life, that they get to see me and they get to see, okay, there's a potential or there's a possibility this could happen to me. Yeah. And I could in a blink of an eye, whatever, I could end up with a diagnosis and my life, my quality of life just be taken from me. And it's almost like, I feel like even in my ministry, I allowed fear to hinder. Whether it was I was worried about being awkward, or I was worried about not being able, about saying the right thing or whatever. But I learned how much that worry and that fear in other people's trials kept me from being in the midst of that trial with them. Does that make
absolutely.
sense?
Yes, sir. It makes a lot of sense. I'd say that's the human affliction there.
Yeah.
Once again, just to encourage anybody that's listening to this, there are floors of the hospital or the nursing home that people are dealing with these things. And,
right.
Some of them may not want you to visit, but there are a lot of them who do. And, get over the awkwardness. It's going to be awkward.
That's it.
But get over it and be a light to that person, even if you have to just go and keep your mouth shut. And that's difficult for me because I'm a preacher.
Well, and Travis, you mentioned something a while ago about the church, finding a church family. And I think the other thing that's sometimes awkward, maybe for the people going through it, you talk about that you're doubting or you're struggling, with doubts, but maybe because of a diagnosis or because of something else. I think it's important for people to know that the church is filled with people on a large range scale of faith. The people who are in the church building, some are just, are inspirations to us. Just their faith is unbelievable. And then you have people who are coming to church every week that are still struggling to figure out whether they believe or not, or how much they believe. And so if you're afraid to walk in a building because everybody's got it together, I think it's important for, you to listening to know, hey, when you walk in that church building, there's going to be people who may have the questions that you've got to.
Well, Nathan, I know you got some kiddos. I don't know how much information you feel comfortable sharing about them, but obviously they've been through it with you as well.
That's right.
So feel free to share a little information about them.
I've got 3 babies, and I've got an oldest girl. She's 7 years old, and then I've got my boy who's in the middle, and he's 4, and then my baby girl, she's 2, and they're all 3. They all 3
bless them
like me. But my wife, and I thank her every day, she put her beauty mark on all 3 of them. Thank the good Lord, because if they all turned out exactly like me, it would have been a horrible situation. But anyway,
I feel your pain
I
there
thank
too.
her every day for putting her stamp of pretty and beauty on our children. Because even though they all 3 look like me, she's put her special touch on them. But that's the thing is, and Travis, watching, I don't think I'll ever forget when my boy looked at me after a treatment, and the look that he had in his eyes week after week, and he would look at me, and my oldest would look at me. Of course, the baby, she's a little bit too young, but just the way that they would look at me, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was, for them, I could tell, even though my boy, he was 3 at the time, he would turn around and he'd be playing in the living room floor, and I'd just be on the couch, just trying to survive. And he'd turn around and he'd say, "Daddy, can you play with me?" And that's I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't play right now. And they have gone through it as well. But the most awesome thing about it is my
Yeah.
babies have learned to pray through this.
Yeah.
And they pray. You know what's awesome today is my boy, he was praying. And this was before he started to, be able to formulate his own prayer and stuff like that. And one night, I was feeling a little bit better, and I was helping put him to bed, and my oldest daughter, I had Grady with me, my middle boy, and my oldest daughter said, we need to pray before we go to bed. And so we gathered around, and she led a prayer, and then I led a prayer, and then my boy, his first time, now keep in mind, his first time he had kind of put together a full prayer. He said, dear God, help my daddy get better so we can ride bikes and go fishing again.
Yeah.
And it broke me.
Yeah.
It's still, I mean, to this day, I can't even talk about it without getting emotional. I was going to say, today he prays, dear God, thank you for helping my daddy get better.
Yeah.
And
allergies are bad in this room right now. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thankful for what the Lord has done with my family, with my children, and any influence, anything that has been done. It's all for His glory, and that's what it's all about.
I thought it was neat the other day that Alex Trebek gave an update on his condition. And he said, there were times he wanted to quit. He said that would have betrayed the friendship and the loyalty and the commitment that his fans have made to him, and his family. And I said,
right.
that nails it, because there were times where it's hard and it's difficult. You've mentioned that, but you just think about, I've got a lot to live for. I've got a lot of people, and it's that statement, to live, I'm going to be Christ as much as I can be. And so that when I do die, that it's gain. Just want to take a moment as we get ready to ask the final question to our guests to encourage you, if you are in the market or looking to create your own podcast, to look at Anchor. That's what we use. As you listen, you may be thinking, if these two guys can do it, then anybody can, and that's absolutely true with Anchor. The best part is it's free. There's plenty of creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can also contact and have your guests on from different locations or right there in the room with you. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. It can be on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. As we wrap up, we always kind of want to end on a little lighter note. So we got some questions for you. All right, and our last one, and this was interesting to me.
Okay.
What song causes your inner performance to unleash in the car?
Yeah, and I don't even know if we could talk about this song on this podcast. Okay, so if you've never heard Snake Farm, it will no doubt put you in a So it's not a bad, like a dirty song or anything like that. It's just got the most ridiculous lyrics of any song you will ever hear, but the most catchy tune. Yeah, that
I might have to look that one up.
So,
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Yeah. I knew this would be a song you'd have to investigate after the fact. So, but once you start listening to it, you're probably gonna laugh. But I love it, man. I was just gonna say that a good way to end is I had scans last month, and they were all clear. And of course, the surgery removed the area that has had the tumor for who knows how long, and so I've had the hip replacement now. I'm up and I'm walking without crutches now. And here I am. I don't have any evidence of disease. So if there was ever any question, as the power of the Lord and His ability, I hope I'm a living, breathing miracle for everyone to see.
And that's
and everyone
awesome.
to see how awesome
Really
God
great
is.
news.
So,
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
in the previous podcast where I talked about my story, it connects us to you. So I wanted you to tell the Gene family there at Savannah that I said hello, and of course Dustin Perkins is. I don't know if you're in his office or if he's sitting there or what. Well, you could tell him hello too.
I'm sitting in his chair.
He